All right, we're live. So we can get started in a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, people are starting to join. All right, let's get started.
Well, Jason, I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, we can get started. Thanks again, Andy, for doing this.
My pleasure. Well, thanks for having me, and for folks on the call, thanks for spending a little time with your evening with me. I'm Andy Seeley. I'm the Vice President of Membership and Geographic Activities for the IEEE Computer Society, and I'm also in IEEE Region 3. I'm the chair of the Member Communications Committee, and in my own IEEE section, which is the Florida West Coast section, I'm the vice chair of the section. So I've got roles in the organization at the local, regional, and global level. And Jason asked me to address this group and tell you just a little bit about IEEE and the Computer Society and what we're doing. With some volunteer-led activities that may be of interest to you, and we'll have plenty of time to answer questions and chat about what it means to be a volunteer and how that works in the Computer Society. So just a quick introduction to the IEEE, if you're not familiar, is, sorry, we're going ahead, and now I'm going to try to go back. IEEE is the world's largest professional technical organization, where there's over 500,000 members globally. In almost every country, there are IEEE members, and there's a large set of IEEE disciplines that are covered. So the core of IEEE as an umbrella organization is really focused on electrical engineering. But that's just the core organization. Within IEEE, there are almost 40 technical societies, of which the Computer Society is one. Big things that IEEE does is not just create this organizational structure globally that brings people together and helps people in their own technical lane meet colleagues and find opportunities, but we also sponsor international standards with a portfolio of 1,300 active standards that are used today. If you're connecting to this on a Wi-Fi connection, for example, that's based on an IEEE standard. So these are things that touch pretty much everybody all the time. We also do conferences, publications, and just a huge array of professional activities and opportunities. IEEE, we like to talk about it as your professional home. And what that means is when you have a job and you're looking for another job and you get another job and you get another job, well, that's a series of jobs. But if you are a member of the IEEE and you treat it like your professional home, that's your profession, and all your jobs become like spokes out of a hub rather than nodes in series. And it makes you a little bit more stable in how you conduct your career. So this is just a brief introduction to IEEE. The IEEE Computer Society is the largest technical society in the IEEE. Others include the next largest one is the Power and Energy Society, which makes sense given that IEEE is the core of it is electrical engineering. The Communications Society is another large one, robotics and automation. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, to be honest, because the Computer Society is the biggest. To me, it's the best because it's mine. You know, it's where I live. But each of the technical societies largely maps across to the global reach of IEEE, where an IEEE local organizational unit is a section. Sections then have chapters of technical societies. When you join the IEEE as a member and you pay your member dues, your annual member fees, you have the option to join a technical societies at the same time. And this is something that confuses a lot of people. I joined IEEE and I joined a technical activity. And I think there's a checkbox for that where you can say, oh, I want to be part of this activity. Well, that's really more like a mailing list, whereas the society is actually the organizational activity, and you pay an extra fee for that. So while your core member dues, depending on where you are in the world, because there's different pricing for different regions of the world based on the local economic values. But your pricing for your IEEE core membership, maybe that might be $100 or $150, and your society membership might be $40 additional. It adds up quick, to be honest. And a lot of people have said to me over the years that they're not sure that there's the value. If I'm going to spend $200 or $300 every year for membership, what am I getting out of that? And that's something that I've taken to heart a lot over the years. I've been a member of this for 25 years. And I've really taken that to heart because it's a hard question to answer sometimes. Obviously, I see value in membership, but how do I convey that to somebody else without it just being happy and glad words like, oh, I feel good about being a member? Well, that's not really value to everybody the way it is to some people. So in my current role as the Vice President for Membership and Geographic Activities, I've been really digging in and trying to create meaningful opportunities for members to build their careers and to gain a sense of purpose and momentum through volunteer activities, which is why Jason asked me to talk with the group. And so, but this chart on the screen kind of gives you a little sense of scope and span. The 29 technical communities here are part of the organizational structure of Computer Society, and I just want to pause for just a moment around that organizational structure. We have membership and geographic activities, which is my group. We have technical communities, which are not organizational units. They're not geographic units. They're domain activities. So you join the society, and then you can join a technical community, and it doesn't cost you anything extra to be part of technical communities. But then you get exposed to discussions and mailing lists and activities and events and things that are around communities, such as cybersecurity or data analytics or artificial intelligence, things like that. So MGA, technical communities, conferences, and technical activities is a separate piece of the organization as well. So when you see conferences that are IEEE conferences, where if you're in the academic world, you're presenting and publishing as part of your academic journey, those things are run by a different piece of the organization, which also has a vice president over it, separate from me. We also have the Standards Association for the Computer Society, where we manage and maintain and update and create standards that are relevant to the computing domain. And I think that's it. I may have forgotten somebody, but if I do, I'll come back to it. But that's the vice president, the division of labor within the society. In MGA, this is what we do. We take the Computer Society's top level goals to empower computing professionals, and we drive that for the good of humanity. That's actually the tagline for the greater IEEE, advancing technology for the good of humanity. It's a lofty thing to say, but it's also a powerful thing to say. When you're a member of the IEEE and the Computer Society, and you're using that as a lens to look at what your career is and what your work is like, and you can say, hey, I'm doing things that advance technology, and those for a good reason. It supports the humans around me. It can be a powerful feeling when you take a pause and take stock of that. So MGA as an organization, membership in geographic activities, we provide these resources and support, and we encourage our members. We try to build programs that support our members either through volunteering or through offerings that we have. Like we have seminars, and we have distinguished visitors and lecturers and activities that our members can take part in that enrich their careers. And when we say members, by the way, I also want to highlight that I don't just mean professional members in their current careers. I also mean student members who are still at college and university and still taking their first steps toward their career. And I also mean life members who perhaps have retired but aren't quite entirely out of the game, and they're still involved. In fact, some of our life members who have retired long ago are probably busier today than they were when they were still in their careers, because Computer Society keeps them active and relevant and gives them opportunities to do things. We have 6 lines of effort, which I'll talk about in the next. These are our 6 lines of effort. I know that there's 7 bullets, but I'm the last bullet because I'm the vice president. We do awards and recognitions in the Computer Society. So when you're a member, especially if you're associated with a local chapter, an organizational unit, there's opportunities for awards. You can nominate others, you can nominate yourself, you can be nominated for Engineer of the Year or Educator of the Year, or there's a wide variety of different awards, and they're at different levels. They're at local levels, they're at regional levels, they're at global levels. There's the next committee is Geographic Activities. The Geographic Activities Committee is responsible for that organizational structure that I described, where we have the global Computer Society, but then at the IEEE section level, there's chapters. The Geographic Activities Chair is responsible for metrics and measurements on the health and vitality of those chapters, enabling new chapters to be created, and helping existing chapters to gain resources. We have a Distinguished Visitors Program. We have dozens globally, several dozen esteemed members who are very senior and accomplished in their fields, who are distinguished visitors. And we have budget for this. So if you have a local organization and you want to host an event and have a guest lecturer, we have budget to travel people to your location and have them help and contribute with your activity. And we really like having people that want to do that virtually. If you're having a virtual live event for your organization, so if it's a Computer Society organization, you can request a distinguished visitor, and out of the list, you can choose the ones that have the most affinity for you and schedule that remotely. And it doesn't cost anybody anything but time, which is very nice. We have the Students and Young Professionals organization, which is absolutely dynamic and exciting. It's a bunch of under 30 people, under 30 years old, who are around the world making great things happen and creating opportunities for students and for what students become when they graduate, which is a young professional. The New Initiatives activity is kind of like our own private little think tank. When we have a good idea, we put the good idea in front of the New Initiatives group and let them kind of develop it into something actionable. Mission enablement is where we develop concepts and activities that support the rest of the society. So think of internal tooling and processes that enable other things. We have a representative to the Board of Governors that gives us a voting position in the Board of Governors. So everybody to this point where we say a representative to the BOG, those are all committees and committee chairs that report to me. And then we also have the Board of Governors representative who's a voting member on the greater board of the society. And then I am also a voting member on the board. So we get two votes. And then of course, at the end, I'm Andy Seeley, the vice president, and my responsibility is to set the agenda for the year And I attend meetings and I make PowerPoint slides, which nobody's ever caught that that's actually funny, or maybe they've laughed quietly to themselves. So these are the three, the four goals that we set out at the beginning of 2025, just to give you a sense of what it is we're trying to do. And goal 0 is we just want to meet and exceed our existing charter. The things that we were trying to do in 2024 and the things that the society at large is trying to accomplish in 2025, we just want to do that. We want to do the things that we said we're going to do. But we don't want to stop there. We want to do a little bit more. We want to have our first goal after that is to increase the perceived value of membership. This is a classic tale of a volunteer society type, like the Computer Society, is people who join it and are members for a long time feel like there's value, but they struggle to convey that value to new members, and new members have a lot of choices to make on what societies they would join, if any, and why they would spend money that they could spend on something else. And so if we can capture the special sauce of that perceived value of why I feel good about being a member and share that effectively, will help everybody that is involved to achieve their goals. Our second goal there is to increase industry engagement. Computer Society can have a real flair for the academic, because the infrastructure of the IEEE and the Computer Society lends itself very nicely to academic publications, which helps people in academic roles gain and maintain their positions in their universities. So it tends to be kind of heavy on academia, but there's a lot to offer industry as well, not the least of which is exposure to academia. So increasing industry engagement is an important goal for us. And then lastly, improving our operational efficiency. If we can do things that allow us to have greater volume, greater scale, greater throughput, and create greater opportunities without creating undue pressure on individuals or generating capital expenses, then we'll be doing a good thing. So we're trying to do those. So these are our top level goals for the year. And this is really the thing that I came to show you as a group, is some of the initiatives we've started this year. And this is actually not a complete list. It's a mostly list, but there's a few extra things on here. These are initiatives we've started since January, and the little chiclets off to the side are which goal they align to. Because if we're doing things that aren't aligned to our goals, then maybe we're doing the wrong things. One of the key things we've done is create this volunteer resource management activity. And some of you on the call may actually be part of this, where we send out regularly calls for volunteers. If you'd like to volunteer with the Computer Society, let us know. And we collect a handful of data points from you. Where are you? What organization are you in? What's your member number? Give us some keywords on what you do, what your interest areas are. Then we put you on this master list. Well, we've got about 250 people on that list right now from around the world. It's not just in the United States. And then with that validated, we validate your membership, we validate that you're actually a member of the society. And then we use that pool of resources and we share it with other parts of the society. So when any of these other organizations that I've mentioned, when they need volunteers to review papers, to judge and score nominations, to approve, to validate awards, things like that, those other organizations can come to the volunteer resource management and say, hey, I need 20 people for 3 weeks, and each one of them will read between 3 and 5 papers and score them. Then we send out an all call to the list, or we might narrow it down a little bit depending on the requirements and say, okay, we only need senior people, or we only need people from Southwest Asia, or some sort of criteria like that. If there are any, we narrow it down, and then we collect people who are interested and available, and we give that as a group, as a tranche over to the requester. And then they're able to conduct their activity with active volunteers. So that's the number one thing. And I'm super proud of what we've put together so far, although it still is in its infancy. We've started doing senior member elevations inside that group. If you're in the volunteer resource pool and you're a professional member and you've been in a professional practice for at least 10 years, we'll write the nomination for you and submit you to be granted the rank of senior membership. And it's a perk of membership. If you're in the society, we're going to do that service for you as a little bit of a thank you to you. It doesn't cost you anything but just a little bit of time. The Global Incubator, we've launched in the New Initiatives Committee. We've launched the concept and the working group on it. We haven't launched the actual incubator. The idea of Global Incubator is to connect through the Computer Society's resources, accelerators, incubators, startups, entrepreneurs, students, capital, professionals, researchers, all the people that we have in the society, connect them together in such a way that any one of them can gain value from the collective whole through this global incubator. So right now we're developing, we're in the writing white papers kind of development phase of that. The chapter catalyst for distinguished visitors, we're trying to use distinguished visitors to help catalyze dormant or lethargic local chapters. The internal awards and recognition, we've started, and we just started this last month, where we assigned somebody to be in charge of figuring out how do we build a process to recognize our internal volunteers. Because when you volunteer, one of the things that I want to be able to offer to you is, if you need it, I can write you a letter of invitation to the volunteer opportunity. And if you need it on conclusion, I can write you a letter of conclusion saying, thank you for doing this. And here's what you accomplished and here's why it mattered. But that needs somebody to focus on that, because I'm only one guy, right? And I can only write so many letters in a day. So having a process to do that is what we're developing with that. Student chapter, sister chapters is another important initiative that we're just getting started with. And we've discovered that in some places, India, North Africa, being two really strong areas, we have student chapters that are they're phenomenal. The number of members they have and the activities they do and the resources they create and the opportunities they create is just mind-bendingly good. And then in other areas, specifically in North America, our student chapters really languish. They're not really strong. They're not really robust. And a reason is there's a lot of competition for their attention. There's so much competition in other societies. Association for Computing Machinery, that's a great society. They're really strong in North America and they compete for students' interest. And why would a student spend the same money twice for two organizations that from the outside seem like they're the same thing, right? So what we're doing with student sister chapters is taking these really successful chapters in places like Pune in India or in Tunisia, where they're just incredible, and we're pairing them up with student chapters that are getting established or they're not really vibrant, and we're trying to create an exchange of energy between them. Localized coding competitions. So IEEE and the Computer Society, we have global coding competitions with big prizes. You can participate in IEEE Extreme and win $1,000 or $5,000, and if you win, but you're competing against a global population. I teach at a small, well, it's actually a really large community college with, so we're just a 2-year school, and I've got programming students that would really like to be part of coding competitions, but they're not going to compete in something global, but they will compete in something that's a little smaller. So we're developing like an off-the-shelf sort of thing that chapters can do around the world. Get your local student chapters in your local universities and tell us you're going to do a competition, and we'll give you a cookbook, a playbook on how to run it, and we'll give you some money for prizes. And just run smaller competitions. So we're trying to create more accessibility and more opportunities for more broadly for students. A career prep workshop, we've been working on this for about 2 months. We have some of our volunteers actually from Amazon. One of our Computer Society volunteers, his entire job is interviewing candidates for Amazon. And he volunteered to set up this program to create workshops where people like him we'll do mock interviews and help with career development. So we're really excited about that. And then lastly, and this is not super relevant to volunteering, but just to let you know what associate student chapter is you can't have a student chapter of the Computer Society unless there's a student branch of the IEEE. And some universities that's not relevant. I'm in Tampa, Florida, and the University of Tampa is a great example. They've got a strong computer science and cybersecurity departments and degree plans, but they don't have a EE program. So they're never going to create an IEEE student branch. There's no need for them to. But in order to create a computer society chapter, they have to. So they have to create two organizational units with the same students paying double the money. It's just kind of a little ridiculous. So we're exploring how we can get around that. And then not on this list, but something Jason and I had mentioned to you when we talked last, is we've created a new study group. We're calling it a study group. It's all volunteer led to solve what I consider to be a really tricky problem. Everything I've described about the Computer Society and IEEE should have created in you this sense of span and scope and momentum and diversity of activity and diversity of content and a diversity of effort. There's so many different things happening all at the same time globally. There's no tool or mechanism or process to correlate events in time and space throughout the society. And we've been struggling with this ever since it was created. How does somebody correlate a local physical event in their chapter with a regional virtual event with a global due date for an award and not miss out on anything? And there's no facility for it. So I've got kind of annoyed with us for not being able to solve that. I said, hey, we have the smartest computing minds in the actual world. Why don't we create a study group to admire what this problem is and put some boundaries around it and start chipping away at a solution? Can we come up with a way to correlate events in time and space in an organization this large and this diverse? And we're just kicking that off, now is what we're doing. So that's what we're doing, just new initiatives in the Computer Society, in membership and geographic activities that is 100% volunteers that are contributing their expertise and a little bit of time and a lot of camaraderie to move some things forward. And I believe that's all I had is in the way of prepared remarks. Jason, over to you.
Thanks for that, Andy. And I think we can just jump straight into questions. I'm sure people have a lot of questions about the initiatives you just shared and just questions in general.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who have questions, feel free to post them in the live stream chat. So I can just read out questions as they come up.
Okay. It was a good enough presentation, Jason, that everybody's just stunned by it.
Yeah, it was, I think the initiatives really, that slide really helped because a lot of people are still not really sure about how they can get involved in the Computer Society.
And now, also, since you mentioned the initiatives, I'm gonna tell everybody that I don't think this is common. Like my predecessor didn't do it this way, and their predecessor didn't do it this way. I have a kind of a sense of shaking things up a little bit, maybe. Like I want to do things differently, and I'm not content to say to allow it to be, oh well, we can't find volunteers, or we don't have any ideas, or we don't have anything to do. There is an infinite number of things we can do, and those initiatives are just the things I've thought up. What do you have in mind? Like if you had the ability to create something that was appropriate to the situation, right? Like we're not going to go create a rocket to Mars, but we can create training, we can create education, mentoring, support, things that are like in this kind of operational domain. If you saw my list of initiatives and said, well, that's a great list, but it'd be better if you did this, tell me what this is, and then I'm going to put you in charge of it.
So I can actually share a bit about it, but there's some questions in the chat. How to join the IEEE volunteer resources pool?
It's actually pretty simple. If you send me an email, say, hey, you want to be part of that, I'm going to reply and introduce you to my the leader for that. The volunteer leader for that is a lovely fellow named Upal, who's in San Diego. He's a professor there, and he manages the volunteer resource pool, and he'll ask you 7 or 8 questions. He might even, I think he might even have a Google form set up for it, but it's, where are you? What chapter are you associated with? What's your member number? What keywords, like, are you a cybersecurity and policy person? Are you a data analytics person? Things like that. And how many years of experience you have. Those are the questions we want to know. So that way we can, when we're reaching out and grabbing a scoop of volunteers to satisfy a request, sometimes those requests come with criteria. We only want people that work in artificial intelligence, and we only want people in South America. Sometimes they're like that, right? So we get just enough detail, but not too much, to be able to do those things.
So this is just a related question. Share your email address, please.
If I see, I see a chat for the studio. Oh wait, okay. So I'm joining the chat. Sorry, but it wants me to log into YouTube.
I can post it if that's.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, if you send Andrew, it's andrew.seeley@ieee.org, and if you send me a note, tell me that you were in this message, because I get a bucket of emails every day, and right now I'm really struggling to answer any of them. So tell me that you were here and what you're looking for, and if I can answer it quickly, I'll get you moving.
Yeah, there are quite a few questions in the chat.
All right, so looking at local chapter for Dallas. So this is a great question about from Enerud. Almost any place you're going to be, there's going to be an IEEE section. Most of the time, especially in a large area like Dallas, there's going to be a Computer Society chapter. Now, I'm really coming at you from a Computer Society perspective, because that's where most of my focus is now. But I don't want to discourage you from, if there's not a Computer Society chapter, you can still join the IEEE and be part of the section. But what you're going to find with local organizations is it's going to be really varied. There are local organizations that are super active and welcoming and bring people in. Then there are others that are holding their minimum number of meetings every month and not really doing a lot. And sometimes that's an opportunity. If you're like reaching out to your local section or your local chapter and you're not getting anything back, if you're in Region 3, which is Virginia to Kentucky to Mississippi to Jamaica, like Southeastern United States, let me know and I'll fix that for you. If you're global and you're looking at the Computer Society, let me know and I can fix that. But if you're looking at the IEEE branch or section outside of the Southeastern United States, I don't have any visibility into who the leadership is. So I don't have any buttons to push for you. But Enerud, help me remember, right? Drop me the email like we're saying and say, hey, I want to connect with the Computer Society in Dallas. And I'll look up who the chapter chair is, and I'll send an email introduction to the chapter chair and to you saying, hey, here's a local person who'd like to be involved. That doesn't mean they're going to do anything with you, because in a lot of cases, these types of organizations don't always have a lot of imagination. Like if they don't have an opportunity waiting, then they're going to be like, well, I don't have anything for you to do. If you think about, hey, I'd like to do something, and here's an idea, give me the opportunity, give me the platform to stand on so I can do this with you, then maybe you can create more activity. But drop me a note and I'll connect to you like that. Kelvin asks what the selection process for volunteers is. Well, that depends. on what the opportunity is. Like the volunteer resource pool that I mentioned, the selection process is if you're an active member and you're interested, we'll put you on the list, and then you get our calls for participation, and then you answer them or you don't. So that's pretty easy. But if we're doing something like, say, my calendar correlation project, when we did our call for participation for that, we actually asked people for some work product, like fill out this form with what do you think the problem space is and what ideas do you have. Like, we wanted people to contribute something up front so we know that they were kind of serious about it. So the answer is unsatisfyingly, it really depends on the opportunity, and could be a lot of different things. And Divya also asks about Austin. Yeah, you're having the experience that I was just describing. So Divya says, hey, I've tried to reach out to the chapter but haven't gotten any response. It's an endemic problem. So whenever in my list of initiatives, one of them was the chapter revitalization, that's the problem, is trying to revitalize chapters and get them to be excited and responsive, but also without judging on them. Because what I have to remind myself and others is nobody's an employee. These are all volunteers. And have you ever heard the saying, if you want to get something done, give it to the busiest person you know? Because busy people have process, and they're able to do more and do more. But everybody that's a leader in the Computer Society, like at the chapter level, they're probably already doing more than they can handle. And answering an email from a stranger is unfortunately priority 2 in a river of priority 1s. So they just struggle to get to you. Same request to you, Divya. Send me a note with, hey, I was in the call that Jason set up, and I want to get engaged with Austin, Texas. And because if you just say Austin, I'll be like, who's that? Right? But if you say Austin, Texas, I'll know. And I'll reach out to whomever that is and see if I can get them moving a little bit. And then same thing for Akhilesh. Akrita says you're going to the Seattle chapter as we speak. Can you get involved at the local chapter by going to these events via signing up online? So there's a name recognition and visibility thing that I think, this is Andy Seeley's observation, right? It's not an official policy thing, but I think the more people in a local chapter see your name or see you showing up or being engaged, the more likely they are to let you know something new is happening or to bring you in. But there's also, unfortunately, there can be kind of like an old guard sort of mentality in some organizations. In my local IEEE section, for example, I went to meetings and showed up for 6 or 7 years before I think anybody even knew my name. That was a little bit frustrating. And I look at myself in the camera and say, I'm not a young guy, but to them I was the young guy because they're all in their 70s. And penetrating that kind of organization, unfortunately, sometimes is a challenge. I have no idea if that's true of Seattle or Austin or Dallas or any of these others. But if you try to knock on the door and they don't let you in, well, if it's a computer society, let me know, and I'll see if I can crack it open with you a little bit. All right, and Siddharth, you make a good request here that, okay, you're a senior member of IEEE, and you're looking for reviewer, judging, and committee member opportunities. I get a lot of requests, and I'm not the only one, a lot of people do, of, hey, I'm looking for opportunities to review papers for conferences and things. And I'm going to tell you, from a conference perspective, that is 100% up to the conference. Like, each conference is its own little bubble. The conference chair is in charge of that. I've got zero visibility into that. The conference's vice president might have some visibility into it, but from last time I was talking to them, it didn't seem like they did. Because each conference, the process for conferences is you have a conference that you put it together, you have your plan and your prospectus for it, and you submit it for approval to IEEE Computer Society, and Computer Society says, yes, you may have this conference and put our name on it. And then off you go and run your conference. And the connective tissue between that and the actual board is not as much as you might think. You might think, oh, that stuff all fits together. Well, it's much more federated than you might think. So we don't really have that. If you're interested in conferences, find the list of IEEE conferences that are in your interest zone. Contact individually the conference chairs, the technical program chairs, and that's a lousy answer. It's the best I can do. But committee membership is a little bit different, and there's only two words: committee membership, but it could mean 20 different things. And so that's another it sort of depends kind of thing. And I wish I had something on the top of my head that I could say, oh yeah, here's an opportunity. You could start at your local chapter level. And if you don't have a chapter, if you're in a place where there's an IEEE section, but there's not a Computer Society chapter, well, why don't you be the catalyst to make one? And that would create a serious committee for you to be on. And I can help with that because that's in the domain of membership and geographic activities. To start a Computer Society professional chapter, you have to have an existing IEEE section, and you have to have the approval of the section. So you have to be involved with them. And then you have to have a dozen members. If you've got a dozen Computer Society members willing to say, yes, I wish to be part of a chapter, we'll guide you through the petition. It's a petition process to request being formed as a chapter, and off you go. That, Siddharth, would be a wonderful thing for you to be able to do. And Prasad, you asked about local chapters in Seattle. It's two questions. Do you have a local chapter in Seattle? I assume you do. I don't know it personally, but I assume you do. And do they have volunteer opportunities? I have no idea. But if you need help getting introduced, send me a note and say, hey, I need introduction to Seattle chapter, and I'll look up who the chapter leadership is and introduce you. And Siddharth Tepar, same question.
Same question.
And then Vasanthi, same question. Cool Kid 22, you're pretty cool. Are you 22 though? Are you really? I don't know. Speaking opportunities, the answer is, so there's two answers. Yes, with a but, and probably with a maybe, right? So the first answer is we have the Distinguished Visitor Program. And if you are of a stature in your domain where you could claim to be distinguished, you can apply to be part of that program. So it's an annual application process every year. Distinguished visitors age out, and then new ones are selected, and it's a bit of a competitive application process. There's interviews and things with it. It's a cool thing. It's a really cool thing to do. And then they will potentially travel you to places to speak. So it's really fun. But it's also it's not something you just do tomorrow. It's something you kind of have to plan for and work up to. And I can point you at the chair for the Distinguished Visitors Program if you want to explore that. But the second yes to this is it depends on where you're at. Here on the west coast of Florida, our Computer Society chapter right now is actively planning for the fall semester to have a professional speakers series. And what we're going to do is one week each month, we're going to have a professional speaker, like a senior member from our chapter, speak to our student chapter at University of South Florida. Then the next week, we're going to have a different speaker speak at our student chapter at Florida Polytechnic University. And then, if all goes well, we'll do on the third week at the University of Tampa, and the fourth week we'll do at Hillsborough Community College, where I teach. And we'll have this rolling opportunity to do exactly what you're asking about. And Heck, you might move to Florida just to be part of that. Who knows? But though, so wherever you are, we have to connect you to the local people. And if they're not doing that kind of activity, suggest it to them. Say, hey, we could build this based on what they're doing in Florida, and let me be the lead for that and figure out how to gather speakers. And they might be delighted. All right. And see, Akalesh is asking about the questions to be answered for volunteering on opportunities. We'll email it to you and ask you, hey, what are these things? But it's like, what's your name? How many years of experience do you have in your domain? What's your membership number? Because we're going to validate that you're an active member. The volunteering piece is a perk of membership. I've had a bunch of people. So if you go to computer.org, which is the Computer Society's website, there's a link for volunteering and a form to fill out. If you fill out that form, don't say I said this, but you're going to get ignored, because a lot of people fill out that form and a lot of them aren't even members of the society. And every now and then somebody needs volunteers and goes to that list and says, oh, how about these people? I've taken people out of that list and vetted them, and I'm actively working with them. So it's a little bit of a different thing. But are you a member? What's your member number? And we're going to verify that. What are some keywords? Like if you do cloud virtualization and storage, like keywords like that. So we know how to kind of sort you if we're looking for something in particular. And I think that's it, right? Maybe there's one other question. It's those kinds of questions. There's nothing hard. And Siddharth, I think I already answered you.
Yeah.
And Nikhil, criteria to volunteer to run a local chapter. That there's two answers, right? If there's already a local chapter, the criteria to volunteer is that you have to challenge the current leadership to battle. I'm just kidding. What you have to do is get involved with the chapter such that they recognize you as an active, engaged person. And then when the elections, because all these positions are elected. The core leadership is elected. The chair, the vice chair, the treasurer, the secretary. There's an election every year, but those positions are usually for 2 years. So you look at what the election cycle is. If there's an election coming up, then you get your name on the ballot. You talk to people and let them know that you're a valuable asset and worthy of being elected. I find that in a lot of cases, we have open elections, but there's really a succession plan going. Like, I'm fairly sure that at the end of my current term and my chair's current term for my local IEEE section, I'm quite sure that my chair is going to be like, Andy, would you like to be the chair next? And if I run for it, I'll be elected because people have known me for so long. But if you're not known, then people maybe are not as likely to vote for you. But what if you don't already have a chapter? That's a more interesting question, and that's what I was saying to the previous question. If there's a IEEE section with no Computer Society chapter, but you want to start one, the criteria for it is you have to be an active member. You have to be a professional member. You have to, I think there's a need for 12 active members who are willing to sign on a petition saying that they'll be part of a chapter. And you need the IEEE section's approval. So you have to go to the IEEE section, executive committee meetings, introduce yourself, let them know what you're trying to do, ask for their help, and then gather other members. And if you don't know any other members, let me know, because I'll look them up in the membership database. And I'll say, hey, look, your local IEEE section has 10 active Computer Society members, but no chapter. You need 2 more, and then go, recruit a couple of friends to join and get you up to that point. That'd be a satisfying and important thing to do, and I'd really encourage you to do that. All right, so Gautam is asking about opportunities to present on latest trending topics. So I think I've covered that already. And I encourage you to reach out, start local, Start with your local chapter or your local IEEE section if you don't have a chapter, because computing, look, we're all, if you're a computer society person by temperament, even if you're not a member, you know the truth of this. Computing fuels everything. Everything is computing. This is 2025. Everything is computing. So if you've got a local section that's really heavy on power and energy, all your members are power and energy, for example, what do you think runs the grid? Computers. Whatever your specialization is, you can go to another society or to the IEEE section itself and say, hey, look, I've got this expertise. I would like to offer it. Can I get introduced to the student organization at our local university, or can we do a webinar or something like that? And just work through that with people, and be ready for the first answer to be you're getting ignored, and then ask again, and the second answer will be no, and then ask again, and the third answer will be okay. Right? You know, be diligent, be persistent with it, because in some cases, unfortunately, these local organizations are they can be a little bit calcified, and your energy might help them improve. So I really encourage you to do it. Akhilesh, you applied for senior membership. Congratulations on doing that, by the way. The senior membership is done 5 or 6 times a year. There's a stepwise process for it. The final step is the meeting of the Admissions and Advancement Committee, which happens 4 or 5 times a year. And then after that meets, your nomination package will be reviewed by a minimum of 3 people who are all senior members or fellows of IEEE, and they will approve it or not. If they all approve it, then you go into the approved pool, and you will hear something after that meeting within a week or 4. Sometimes it takes a while. And then they'll mail you a really nice, like it's actually a plaque. It's actually a piece of wood with a piece of brass on it. It's very nice. They'll mail that to you, and you'll get that in 3 months. Like, it takes a little bit of time. It's a little bit slow. But if you get kicked back, if you get rejected from that, let me know. Send me a note and say, hey, I got rejected. And then I'll want to have a look at what you did, right? And see how you do it, because there's tricks to it. I've personally nominated probably about 200 people, and been references for probably about 400 or 500 people. And so I've got a lot of experience in senior membership. And if you do get rejected, let me know. I'll get you into the next cycle and get everything lined up for you. And Divya, the slide deck will be shared. My PayPal is, and my Venmo is, I'll sell it to you. I'm just kidding. Yes, I will send that to Jason for distribution. And
all right, last question.
Geographic location as a local chapter or not. And all right, you've got really 2 questions. So how to find if you have it or not is, unfortunately, if you don't already know, it's a little bit unwieldy. The best bet is going to be send me a note. I'll look it up, because I can look it up, fairly quickly. But and then I can give you, here's the addresses to the leadership of it, or if they exist. But then how it's defined is actually a surprisingly tricky answer. And I've actually it's a nerdy sort of thing. I'll get going on this. I'll try to hold myself back. Your chapter is defined by your section. So the IEEE section is the core of all of this. All society chapters are adjunct to the section. Without a section, you can't have a chapter. The section's geographic boundaries are actually widely disputed, like border conflicts almost. And it's very, very interesting what I've discovered, because my own section, the border, the geographic border was being disputed by people who disagreed over what city was included and what wasn't. specifically for us, the city of Naples in Collier County in South Florida, the IEEE Region 3 says it's in our section, but our section says it's part of the Miami section. And how do you figure that out? So here's what I discovered. You're going to regret asking me this question because I'll keep talking about it. It's defined by zip code. So at some point, membership in geographic activities of IEEE, not me in Computer Society, but of IEEE, laid down a map of the United States and drew physical boundaries. And in those physical boundaries said, all the zip codes in those boundaries are in this section, and all the zip codes in that boundary is in that section. But what they failed to take account of is the US Postal Service reassigns zip codes all the time. And so now you end up with floating zip codes moving around and being engulfed in other sections. And it's really a hard problem, and nobody's got a solution for it. And I think it's kind of funny, to be honest. Oh, that's much more answer than you actually were looking for. There is a map. If you go to IEEE.org, you can drill down into your region, and it'll show you a map of sections. And also, you'll know, because if you log into your IEEE account and your profile, it will tell you in your profile what region and what section you're in. And Divya, I am candid. If you ever want to know what I think, just ask me and I'll tell you.
All right, that's all the questions. Thank you so much, Andy, for taking the time and going over time as well. Really appreciate it.
I'm impressed with your people. Well, we're on time, right? Did we have an hour for this?
I think we only had 30 minutes.
Oh, but well, look at that. We blew that budget by 100%. I thought we were right on time. For folks in the call, thanks for your great questions, by the way. And I know that you are part of this through Jason because of status issues in the United States. And I wish you luck with navigating things. But I encourage you, if you're not already a member, join, make it your professional home. And there's multiple kinds of members. There's members that join and pay the money every year and say, I get nothing out of this. And then there's people that use it like a tool to create things. You can be a member of this and use it as a place to put your feet so you can stand taller and do great things in your career. That's what I try to do every day with this. And I encourage you to join me. And let's go do some great things together. And I wish everybody a great evening.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, Nick, I'll share this later. Thanks, everyone.